Greetings, fellow visitors. This is Upgrade Terminal, a Monolith fancast. I'm Malachi.
And I'm Nick. Welcome back to the facility.
Nick, how are you doing?
I'm doing alright, most things considered. Lots of ups and downs in life, but, getting through it quite well.
Mm-hmm. Did you do anything fun this week?
I did. Just, the other day I played some Risk of Rain 2 with some pals of mine, and,
Oh, nice.
yeah, I really enjoy having friends that I can play games with, which is, for a long time, it was something that was absent from my life, and so
Mm-hmm.
having that luxury now, it feels very nice to be able to share that with friends.
Oh, absolutely. I agree. Before I made friends on the internet, I
Mm-hmm.
also rarely had people that I could play video games with that were like in my immediate vicinity.
Mm-hmm. Sometimes the friend group that you have is not necessarily the friend group that you can just be like, "Hey, you want to play this game with me?" And they're like, I don't know."
Exactly. Yeah. You can have good friends and you're that don't have the same interests as you.
Yeah, happens.
Yes.
So, what happened to you recently?
Something nice that happened this week. It was a small thing, but the willow trees outside my office were in bloom. And so there were all these tiny little flecks of cotton floating in the air. And it looked like it was snowing outside. It was so thick and dense. And then it just coated the water, and it made the water in some places look like fuzzy milk. It was pretty incredible. And yeah, it was just kind of weird looking out the window and seeing that falling like snow and watching it build up on the ground. And it made me sneeze a lot, but it was very nice to look at.
I'm sensing a bit of a theme of appreciation of nature in these little segments.
Yeah, I am. I have been known to appreciate nature on a very regular basis.
It's a good habit.
I got it from my dad. My dad is a wildlife biologist, so growing up, he would always point everything out to me. He can name all the different animals and trees and plants and things like that. So yeah, I'm that kind of person. You guys can expect to hear a lot of observations about nature
And I'll be happy to hear it.
and Monolith.
And that too. Speaking of,
Yes.
for today's episode, the theme is cartridges.
Yeah, we're going to talk about cartridges. I think I definitely want to talk about Game Boy, which this is the starting point for me when I think of the cartridges in Monolith. And I know it's a tenuous connection at best because we
Mm-hmm.
talked about this, Nick, and you were like, What's the connection here?" For me, I love the idea of cartridges in general.
Mm-hmm.
It started with Game Boy, but it's not exclusive to Game Boy. You know, of course, a tape, a CD, a book, I kind of feel the same way about them in that they are kind of their own individual world. And that concept of being able to hold a world in my hand, a quote unquote world in my hand, is always something I find really enjoyable to think about. So as a kid, I got a lime green Game Boy Color for my 10th birthday, I think. And um, one of the first games I played was Link's Awakening. I traded a girl named Tanya at school. I traded her, I think it was, now that's what we call Music 5 CD for Link's Awakening, which is a really great trade for me. But
I
she didn't like that game. So I got a great trade. You guys, if you want to investigate how good that trade was, you can go listen to Now That's What I Call Music 5. I'm sure it's on YouTube or somewhere on the internet. That was the first cartridge where I really felt like I had a tiny little world in
mm-hmm.
my hands, and I loved that. I went on to get a Game Boy Advance when I was older, and I also had two cartridges that I still have. I have them in my hands right now, actually, are Golden Sun and Bok Tai. The sun is in your hand, which now I'm realizing they're both sun related.
Mm-hmm.
But I just that's why I still kept these cartridges. I didn't want to give them up because I just love having these tiny little worlds, even though I haven't visited them in some time.
Mm. So I guess what you're saying is that you love this idea of like a portable world in this small package that you can carry.
Mm-hmm.
So you feel a lot of affection for cartridges as an object, which is why they have such appeal to you in something like Monolith.
Exactly. So because I had that kind of pre-existing love for cartridges when they appeared in the Monolith DLC, I was super excited because I feel like when I collect a cartridge in the game, I mean it just brings back all that nostalgia for collecting cartridges in real life.
I know I also had a Game Boy Color growing up.
Mm-hmm.
Later, Game Boy Advance SP, which was the one with the backlight, which was very handy because the old Game Boys did not have a backlight, so you had to angle them to get like the good to be able to see them because otherwise it was dark.
Yeah, or you could get a worm light. Did you ever see those?
I did see those, but I never got one of those, so I just had to learn how to angle the screen.
Yeah, I used to have a worm light and we'd play under the blankets at night, but they didn't work very well. So yeah, the Game Boy Advance SP was a game changer.
And then I got a Nintendo DS with the tiny little cartridges.
Oh yeah, even smaller.
Yep, smaller and smaller. And nowadays, with like the Switch ones, it's mi- like the package is so minuscule, and yet the worlds get bigger and bigger.
Yeah. No, I was so happy when I learned Switch would have cartridges.
Mm,
That was one of the things that made me want to buy one. I was like, yes, we're going back to cartridges.
Not surprised.
Yeah. But anyway, cartridges in general, we like them.
Hmm.
In Monolith, we have some favorites. There are quite a few cartridges that you can collect in the game, and they're all pretty cool. Most of
Hmm.
them are, except for hats. Ev- every time I spend some of my hard-earned max ammo to get a hat cartridge, I'm just like, no, fuck this cartridge. I don't like it. I don't want it. I'm sorry. When the ghosts have hats, it's very cute, but please don't make me spend money on it.
That's fair. That's fair. Yeah. Looking at the wiki, it says that there are a total of 45 cards, which is
Mm.
a lot of cards. I like most of them. I am
Hmm.
also not a particularly big fan of hats, but as we were like sitting down and trying to select cards to highlight, it was
Hmm.
real tough because we were like, man, there's so many that we want to talk about, and it's hard to pick. But in the end, we managed to settle on a few that we wanted to talk about. So to
Yeah.
start with,
Well, we felt like there was something we could say about all of them.
oh yeah, I mean, yeah, we play this much and we like it this much. We could have something to say about everything in it.
But sorry to cut you off, Nick. You were about to tell us the first card that you would like to mention.
The first card I would like to mention is Member Card. When you look at the cartridge, it looks a bit like a shopping cart.
Hmm.
And what it does is that every shop spawned after you get it, it has another item on it.
Yes.
And I just like this a lot because it gets me excited, makes me go, oh yes, now the shops can have a lot more stuff. If you have stuff like Discount or Blessing of Earth, you can really get a lot of resources out of shops. And I just like the idea of like, you roll up to bloke and you're like, hey, I have a member card, and it's like, oh, cool, cool. I have some extra wares for you now.
Yeah, I like that too. He's like, "Oh, I know you. You were just on floor 3." One thing I wanted to ask you about member card real quick. Have you ever been a regular at a shop in real life before, Nick?
Shop, I'm not sure, but
Cafe?
cafes and restaurants, yes, absolutely.
It is such a good feeling. Like I
Mm.
remember the first time I went to a cafe and they were like, "The usual?" And I was like, "Yeah, thank you." Like, it's such a good feeling. So I imagine that's what it's like in Monolith too.
Yeah,
although
it's a
although Bloke never wants to give you what you want, really,
bloke might give you what you want. You might
for a
not.
price.
I mean, yeah, no, it's nothing's for free down here.
Well, the first cartridge I wanted to mention is Contract.
Mm-hmm.
Contract is probably well known by most players. It's a really awesome card. You pick it up, you get a Hermit Helper. Come on, that's awesome. You get a familiar that flies around with you, and it has very high damage output. It's basically the same as your damage, right?
Uh, about equivalent, yes, though it's a bit slower.
Yeah, its damage scales with the player's damage stat. It is
Yep.
slower, but he can fly around, and you can hide in the corner, and your little helper will go around and kill enemies for you, which is very nice.
Mm-hmm. And in fact, it is such a powerful card that it's one of the few that comes with a drawback,
Hmm.
meaning you get 20% less debris. I'm assuming that's payment for the hermit.
Yes, that's what I've always imagined as well. Like
Mm-hmm.
you're like, hey, thanks for helping me out. Here's a little money. So everything you're picking up, you're splitting it with this little hermit.
Mm-hmm.
So I like that. I hope one day that hermit will appear in the hub, so you can get to know him a little better.
Who knows?
Nick, hit us with another cartridge that you like.
So, staying on the same theme, I
Hmm.
like cool sunglasses. This is the card that makes it so that Bloke can actually appear in floor 6, which normally he does not. Normally, floor 6 is the floor that you don't have either any shops or an upgrade terminal. Hmm.
Hmm.
But with cool sunglasses, Bloke's gonna show up for you down there.
Yeah, can you blame Bloke for not wanting to be down there?
Like, I do like that he seems equally as cheery and upbeat down there as everywhere else. Is like, oh yeah, it's fine, it's cool, you know.
Yeah, he's trying to keep his cool, but I think he's probably a little bit freaked out.
I do like he'll only go down there if you have the cool sunglasses. Like, well, I'll only go down there for you if you're cool enough, not just for anybody.
Yeah, he's like, I can't let you out cool me. So now that you've got cool sunglasses and you're down on the sixth floor, I got to go there too.
I I feel like I have to point out at this point that
Hmm.
this is a topic that I'm teasing for another episode, but Bloke is a member of the council, and I think that's just very interesting that your shopkeeper is one of the members who made this all happen. And I just think like it just gives this character, it makes him so much more interesting, and therefore I find the cards that interact with that
Hmm.
more appealing from like this subtle lore perspective as well.
Yeah, I've always wondered what bloke even is. You
We may
know,
never know.
it's just some bloke.
Yep. Malachi, your turn.
The second one I'll bring up is dagger. First of all, I just love the word dagger.
Mm-hmm.
I remember hearing about a somebody whose dog was named Dagger once. I can't remember who it was. Somebody that worked at IGN or something. But to have a dog named Dagger is awesome. But the Dagger cart is also very cool. It's got a glowy red knife on it. It's a plus 10% damage against bosses. And that one just feels so cool to have. It just feels great to have that dagger in your arsenal and know that when you go in to fight the boss, you're going to be doing some extra damage.
Mm-hmm. Yeah.
It you still got to be really skilled and dodge all the bullets, but it gives me more of a confidence boost than anything. Like the dagger could be a placebo. Like maybe it doesn't give me plus 10 damage, but just having dagger gives me a lot of confidence, and so I always like being able to pick it up because then I'm like, oh yeah.
The thing about Dagger is that it's one of those cards that's always going to be useful because fighting bosses is a thing you have to do, and this just makes that just a slightly easier ordeal because it goes
Hmm.
by quicker.
Nick, you want to give us your third cartridge?
Yeah, so this one is a slightly odd one out. This one is Golden Star. And what this card does is that usually when you clear a room in Monolith, there can still be a lot of stray projectile bullets hanging around.
Hmm.
And it's happened to all of us. We clear a room, we take a moment to gather our breath, collect ourselves, and oops, You got hit by a bullet that was still there. You didn't realize it, and now you just feel so dumb. You finished the fight, and you still got hit.
Yep.
Well, Golden Star takes care of it. Says, nope. As soon as the combat is over, if you have Golden Star, all of those bullets go away, and they turn into money.
This sounds almost like a an ad for a lawyer, uh, a lawyer firm called Golden Star. Have you been damaged by a bullet after you cleared a room?
Well, well, how we got a deal for you? Get Golden Star, and you'll never be hit by bullets again.
Exactly. Golden
But
Star will instantly clear the room of all bullets, so you don't have to face the shame anymore.
and as a bonus, as you go through the loops, the card deal gets even better. Because the thing is, as you go down further loops, enemies sort of have more and more bullets, and it's way more likely that they're going to just leave a lot of stuff lying around. And Golden Star nullifies all of that, and
Mhm.
you get even more money for it in the process. So
Oh, I didn't even think of that.
yeah, it's technically a score running tip, but no sane person I think would use this above all of the other things that people like Rutabaga are doing.
Hmm.
So yeah, I like this because it means I don't have to feel dumb about that mistake, and I can just relax and be like, "Yep, I got it covered."
Yeah.
And what's your last pick, Malachi?
My last cartridge is a syringe. This is the one that basically turns swarmers into little Metroids. Um, it powers them up, it makes them very strong, and so it's kind of a niche cart because you obviously have to have a weapon that has a swarmer's keyword. But when
You
you,
have to have the Swarmer pack enabled first of all.
oh, that's true, yes. So you have to have unlocked that. And but when you get this up and running, it is really, really powerful and very fun to use. And I always feel like, like I picked contract because I like having a familiar, having someone fight next to me. Syringe is kind of the same thing where I'm just like, yes, like go, my little swarmer children, feast. Um, that's always really, really satisfying, especially when you kill a couple enemies and you got a big swarm just
Mm-hmm.
going around the room destroying everything. It's yeah, very, very satisfying.
Hmm, that's quite the image, but hey, you're having fun with it.
There's one cartridge that deserves a special mention. It's the cartridge Nick and I agreed that we probably love the most.
Mm-hmm. And that would be Plug.
Yes,
Plug
all hail plug.
Plug is the card that allows you to hack shops, weapon tropes, and upgrade terminals
Hmm.
for an extra benefit. So it makes shops cheaper, it makes tropes and terminals offer more options, and all you have to do is just win a little hacking minigame.
Yes, which is not only fun,
Mm-hmm.
but the cool thing about this cart is it encourages active use. It totally shifts the way that run goes.
Mm-hmm.
And
It,
like we mentioned in past episodes, we like things like that. It's always fun to pick something up that's going to change the calculus of your run.
mm-hmm. It's one of the few cards that just having it passively doesn't do anything. You have to actually do something in order to get a benefit, and the benefit can be really quite strong. Like
Oh
for
yeah.
instance, like cheaper items is always going to be good. Having more options is always better because it just means you can pick what you need the most.
Hmm.
That being said, the pain that everyone feels is you picked up cards, say on floor 2, and now you're on floor 5 and you realized you haven't used it once.
Yeah, that's the worst. I actually I have a habit of whenever I see an upgrade terminal, I'm so excited I'll just dash into it.
Mm-hmm.
And literally, there have been so many times when I have plug, and it's almost like I can't stop myself because it's muscle memory. And
Mm-hmm.
if the whole thing was in slow motion, it's like I enter the upgrade terminal room and I'm like, yes. And then I hit click dash and I'm like, no,
Slam.
but it's too, yeah, it's too late. And then I'm stuck in it and I'm just slap, face palm. Oh, I didn't hack it.
It's one of those items where it really pays to be aware of your loadout and just keep in mind that you have this. You can't just it's not just gather and forget. And
Hmm.
also, you kind of need to be good at the hacking mini games to really get use out of it, or you're just going to get hurt a lot.
Yes. Those mini games are fun, but they can be challenging.
It's worth practicing if you find the little turret on the hub with the cool blue and red sunglasses. Absolutely worth just spending some time practicing those mini games.
Nick, we also have discussed some ideas for future cartridges.
I think what we agreed upon was that if we just wanted to ramble on about cartridge ideas, we would be here for a long while. So we decided we were just going to keep it short
Hmm.
and talk about mostly just one idea for now.
Yes. I mentioned contract already. Um, my ideal cart would be something similar to contract, but there's a different contract for each type of enemy in the game. So, for example, for undead, uh, there would be a cart called Blood Oath that functions just like contract, but it would summon an undead enemy to fight with you as a familiar.
Hmm.
For mages, it would be called Covenant, and it would work in the same way. And for constructs, it would be called Pact. And for mech enemies, it would be called Link. And for creatures, it would be called Bond.
Hmm.
And so, being able to summon a different enemy from each of the enemy classes would be amazing. I would love it.
Cool. Sorry, that was a bit condescending. I agree. It's a cool idea. I more variety is a good thing. Sorry, I just didn't know. I just blanked
No, it's
out.
okay. It's okay.
When I decided like what's a card idea I wanted to bring, I figured
Hmm.
I wanted to come up with an idea for a card that encouraged a good habit onto players.
Hmm.
I want a card that sort of incentivizes people to do what the game wants them to do. And when I think of that, one of the first things that comes to mind is you gotta switch weapons. You gotta just switch it up.
Yep.
Yeah, that's a habit that I think it's very important for players to have. So my card idea would be a card called Armory, and what it does is that when you salvage a weapon, if the weapon that you acquire is of a different weapon type, say Fireball, Revolver, Vulcan, is different from the previous one, you get an extra HP part.
Okay.
So when you equip something that's different, you get a little extra bonus of health, just little something. And as you keep doing this throughout the run, you can also just start to accumulate a lot of extra health. Or if you're playing non mild, shields, which is always
Mm.
valuable.
So basically, you're incentivizing me to not just pick runic every time, or
Well, the ideal thing would be you pick up different things. Like the whole point is to experiment to try different things.
hmm, yeah,
Right?
I like that.
Hmm. And I believe there's one more point you wanted to make that's cartridge related.
Yes, I'm really, really hoping at some point that Monolith will come to the Nintendo Switch. I know it's
Hmm.
been talked about, it's been theorized about. I hope that the prophesied day will come. I can't wait to carry Monolith with me. I know I could buy a Steam Deck, and maybe someday I'll do that. But right now, I don't have that kind of cash to just buy a Steam Deck to play Monolith. But rest assured, if I did have it, I would buy it.
You are eager to be able to hold the world of Monolith in the palm of your hand.
Exactly, which goes back to why I like cartridges, you know, um, so to be able to have Monolith on a cartridge would be a dream come true. So I really hope that happens someday.
The kind of official physical manifestation of this game.
Absolutely. Yeah, I would yeah. I mean, there's a what are they called? Special Reserve Games. They make a lot of like really cool
Oh,
physical versions
oh
of
yeah,
digital only games.
I've heard about them.
Yeah, they made a collector's edition of Downwell, which I
Ah,
bought. And it's so cool. It's so cool, Nick, to have a game that was digital only come to physical.
mm.
And yeah, I hope that happens with Monolith someday. But even if there isn't an actual cartridge, I'll just love having it on a portable device so I can play it on airplanes and in waiting rooms and, on mountaintops. I don't know.
And as you are doing it, spread the gospel of this game.
Exactly. Yeah. Then I can be on the subway or something and playing Monolith, and hopefully people around me be like, "Wow, what's that game you're playing?" And
In my
my eyes,
experience, people in subways just do not talk to each other at all.
yeah, I know. I played when I was commuting to college. I played Downwell on the subway for many years, and no one ever asked me about it. I always hoped they would.
People just mind their own business.
That's true, which is also good. If you listeners have any ideas for future cartridges that you'd like to see in the game, let us know. Also, get on the Discord. Let us know what your favorite cartridges are and why. We'd love to hear about it. Thanks so much for listening to our Monolith Fancast, and thanks again to Arca Dream. He was very kind to allow us to use the music and sound effects in this podcast.
So please check out Arc of Dreams, aka Garoslaw's soundtracks over on Bandcamp, both the base game and the Relics of the Past soundtrack.
And as always, if you have any comments or suggestions for the show, reach out to us. Join our Discord server and let us know. We'll post the server link in the show description.
And in the Discord server, you'll find fellow pilots to talk with and discuss the show. Thanks for listening. We'll hope you'll join us next time.
This is what you came for, isn't it?
So be it.